How can you build determination? Whether it's in your personal life or in your business, what can you do to stay on track and be determined? As a coach, I have worked with hundreds of people to help them to be determined and make progress on their goals, in their business, in their life. So I know that it's something that is absolutely fundamental. Some of the core elements why determination matters is because it builds confidence. It helps you to overcome fear of failure. It helps you to stay on track with your goals. It helps you feel more empowered, and more than anything else, it shifts your identity. When you're someone that is used to constantly persevering and pushing through obstacles to reach your goals, then this becomes part of your identity, and it makes it easier for you to reach pretty much everything else in your life. Previous episode, I spoke about resistance and how we can overcome resistance. Resistance and determination are very closely together. They're almost the two opposite sides. The resistance is telling you not to doing, the determination is telling you go for it. Determination can often be confused with maybe motivation or willpower. Determination is a combination of commitment and taking action. You're fully committing, that's in your mind, and action, that's in your behavior. This combination is determination. There's a theory called the self-determination theory, and this is directly linked to intrinsic motivation. If you checked out the episode I did recently on the 4 types of motivation, then you know that there are different types of motivation, and a lot of them are external, like extrinsic motivation, and the others, identified motivation, etc. And intrinsic motivation is internal. This is something that is aligned with you. Basically, what self-determination theory is saying is that if you're trying to pursue something that is not aligned with your values, your principles, your vision, what's important for you, it's going to be a hell of a lot harder to be determined along the way. This is worth keeping in mind because sometimes where we lose determination or motivation and we don't take any action, it's because it's no longer aligned. And then it might be worth thinking, what direction, what pivot, what things can we put in place to lead a life that is more aligned? This then helps us to find that motivation and determination again. I like to think as motivation is the initial fire, similar to what I mentioned in the Fresh Start Effect episode, that initial fire and burst of motivation. And then determination is the commitment, the actions, the behaviors that we're putting in place to prove to ourselves that it's worth it. There are 2 core elements that help us to stay determined. And this is what I discovered when I listened to Brooke Castillo episode on the Life Coach School podcast, and she explained this absolutely fantastically. What is it that makes us be determined? Why is it that certain people quit when things get hard and other people persevere? And too often we narrow this down to, they're just more disciplined. They just have more willpower. They just have more self-discipline. That's not true. Self-discipline, willpower are habits and behaviors that we can put in place to persevere. That's correct. Determination, there's something else behind it. And here are the 2 fundamental elements. The first one is firmness of purpose. Once more, Brooke Castillo explains this absolutely fantastically, so I recommend checking out that episode also. Firmness of purpose is when your why is so strong that nothing will stop you. Do you really think in a scenario where a mother needs to do certain actions in order to save the life of their child, do you think they need discipline or willpower? That level of determination when someone that you love, their life is at stake, is very different to just having the willpower and discipline to do a workout. And what's interesting is that this type of determination we think we can only have in emergency cases. But we can build the habit of having this type of strong determination in all circumstances. This is a habit. This is something we can nurture. And this links to that second element that Brooke mentions, which is the constant decision of taking the action again. Determination is nothing more than constantly redeciding to do it. If you're determined to be a morning person and get up at 5 a.m., guess what? If you do that 3 days, that's not determination. If you do it 3 months, maybe, but what happened to the 4th month or the 5th month? Determination is redeciding every single day, I will do this. I will take action on it. Once more, if it's aligned. If at one point your priorities in your life shift, If circumstances change, if you have a totally different perspective and things are different, then you redecide. That's different. That's realigning new priorities. What I'm talking about is if it's something that is still a priority for you, then it's daily actions, daily commitment towards this goal, towards this project, towards these habits. And it's not something you can just drop the ball on. And it's also not something that is fixed in stone. It's not because for a month or two you were very committed to a goal that months 4 or 5 or 6 you will still be. That's why it's so worth analyzing what is that purpose, the firmness of purpose, the why, the reason behind what you're doing. Because once that is really clear, it makes it so much easier for you to decide each day to honor that decision, to honor that commitment. For instance, when it comes to, many people have some very healthy routines in place, whether it's going to bed early, meditating, exercising daily, eating healthily. Behind this, there's a really strong why, really strong purpose, and the habit of constantly choosing again to make that decision. Some of these habits might be on autopilot. For instance, if they've been going to bed early every single day for the last 4 years, this is probably more autopilot. But some of them might be a constant decision. Maybe there's someone who really has a sweet tooth. Every time they're offered a cake, it's redeciding, no, I will stick with my values and what's important for me and not eat it. For example, I'm not saying you shouldn't eat cake, although sugar is extremely nauseous, but let's not go down that route. I'm just saying, once you've made that decision and that determination and you know why something is important for you, how do you honor that commitment every day? How do you prove to yourself that it's still something you want to work on? So looking back at these two fundamental elements, the first one is firmness of purpose. This only works if you've really sat down and asked yourself, why are you determined? Why does this even matter? What happens if you do not reach this goal or this project? Why is this something that you care about? Is it aligned with your values? Is it aligned with some of your core principles? And then on the other hand, there's constantly redeciding to take that action and knowing that determination is a journey, it's a process, and you will need to constantly make that decision again. You won't be able to just make the decision once and just wait and see what happens. And this is valid both well-being and health and exercise, but it's also valid in relationships, how you show up with your friends, with your partner. Many people think you get married and that's the end of the story. In the movies, it's the end of the story very often. Obviously, that's the beginning of the story. And how do you show up every day in the marriage? And how do you show up when things get harder? And how do you still treat your partner kindly and with respect after 10 years, 20 years, 50 years? How do you still surprise them? These are constant decisions. This is determination to make the relationship work, for instance. Also valid with friends, also valid with coworkers, also true in all of our relationships. And the same goes for our work, our career, our business. How do you show this determination to yourself? And I keep saying show it to yourself because it's not about proving to other people how determined you are. That way is not probably the most aligned, because that can need you to do a ton of actions just to look good in the eyes of other people and to do things that really aren't aligned for what matters for you and in your life. This is really here proving to yourself how determined you are, that these things matters. And as you do this, you build self-trust. I spoke about self-trust in the previous episode on overcoming resistance. The more you overcome resistance, the more trust you feel that you can overcome it again. And it's the same here. The more determined you are and constantly persevering and taking action and building upon progress and actions, the more you will believe that you can do this again. As I said at the beginning, overcoming resistance, being determined, very closely intertwined. The last note I would like to share here is around focusing on the journey. Determination is constantly renewing that choice. It's constantly choosing certain behaviors and actions. It's remembering that why as we do it. It's remembering our core values and principles. And this is a process. It's not an end goal. We often think we just need to be determined till we reach that goal. And then what? This is why so many people, when they have a goal to reach a marathon, they do the marathon and then they stop running. What's the point? Was the aim really just to finish a marathon? Or is there a bigger aim here around being healthy, around learning as we grow. We want to put most of our emphasis on the journey and not on the goal. And as you're doing this, ask yourself, how much are you in a hurry? When we're in a hurry, that's our survival brain kicking in. And we want to make sure that we're going at a slower pace in our mind, that we're feeling calm and grounded, because then that comes from our prefrontal cortex. And this really helps us to be determined along the way. I hope this has been useful for you. I would love to hear in the comments, what was your main takeaway? How are you going to put this in place? And if you're looking to ramp up your determination, if you're looking to break through your current plateau and maybe grow your business and feel more at ease in your work and have greater focus, then I am very excited to say that I'm working with just a few entrepreneurs and founders one-on-one exclusively to help them to break through this plateau and scale and grow their business. If this is of interest for you, you can check the application in the description below. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm looking forward to reading your comments here below on the topic of determination.